Welcome to the You Can't Afford Me podcast, where we skip the fluff and dive straight into the grind. Real entrepreneurs, real struggles, and the unfiltered journey behind success. Let's get into it. Hey guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of the You Can't Afford Me podcast. Today we're going to talk about something. There are a lot of things when it comes to entrepreneurship where you don't really think about these things when you're first starting up your business, but they're very integral and things that you're going to have to implement at some point. So we have a gentleman on the podcast today that's going to be talking about that service, but also he's an entrepreneur himself. So we're going to get into the meat of how he built his business. So today we have Christian on the podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man.
I feel
Absolutely.
official being on the podcast. I feel dangerous.
Well, let's get silly then, man. Give everybody, take a moment, give everybody a quick rundown of who you are, what you do.
Sure. So my name is Christian Mosier. I'm the founder and president of BenX Consulting Group. And essentially we are a full service benefit advisory firm. So just like Sam said, anything dealing with employee benefits, offering them to employees is something that we handle. We try to look at it from the lens of an entrepreneur and business owner because obviously that's what I am. So I try to look at it from that lens. Grew up in South Hill,
Nice.
which has about 4,000 people, and then went to small college. Ferrum had about 1,000.
You know, Ferrum was one of the first schools I actually looked at.
Really?
I ended up not going there, but that was one of the first ones on my radar.
I, for whatever reason, really enjoyed it during the tour. It was like, I want to play here. So I ended
Nice.
up going to Ferrum and moved to Richmond after I graduated. And it was funny. Most people move to Richmond. And they're like kind of a small city, right?
Yeah.
I did the exact opposite, as we talked about, right? Like I moved to Richmond, it was like a massive metropolitan
Yes.
compared to Ferrum and South Hill.
That's how I felt. I came from Lynchburg. I think Lynchburg's one of the largest small towns in America.
Yep.
But definitely I had that feeling when I came to Richmond. It was like, oh man, I'm in the big city. Like I felt like I was a country boy moving to New York City or something like that. Like it felt massive.
Cheeseburgers, $12.
Yeah. So kind of talk to us about your journey, how you even got started in this industry. So you went to Ferrum. What did you major in school?
Finance.
Okay.
So I did like finance and some accounting, actually, funny enough.
So you knew early on this was a field somewhat that you wanted to be in.
Yeah, somewhat. I knew that I kind of enjoyed numbers and people, and that was it. Now, I realized that accounting would be just numbers most of the time. And I was like, not a big fan of that. And then I had a couple interesting jobs to start. Was like in construction for a bit, was in recruiting for a bit after college. No one knows what they want to do, right, after college. And then found kind of a sales role at ADP, and that's what I really fell in love with, was kind of the business development and relationship building side, building a network, serving people versus selling people, which I really enjoyed. And so from ADP, after a couple of years there, went to the benefit industry, just from a networking contact and friend. Didn't even know really benefits existed. And most time, you're like, what's health insurance? What's benefits? I didn't even know what a deductible was. But what I really enjoy about benefits is it matches the people and the numbers now. Because now I deal with numbers all the time. But I also can relay them to people all the time. So it's like, I'm not all numbers, I'm not all people. It's kind of a really cool mix. So that's how I got in there.
Yeah, that transition there, what was it when you kind of saw this side with health benefits that you said, I want to switch from sales to the benefit piece? What was it that attracted you to this industry?
That's a really good question. It was oversold to me, I would say, just like some jobs are. But the thing that attracted me was relationships for a lifetime versus relationships for a year. So like ADP a lot of times, or sales roles in general, right? You're kind of selling, consulting, maybe selling a little bit, and then you sell the product or service, and you're kind of out, right? Like maybe you help with implementation and things like that, but then you're done.
Yeah.
Where I really enjoy benefit-wise is like, our goal is to have clients for 20 years. So it's like our goal is to have this, a client just continue with us on a journey as they grow, which is really cool to see. It's probably one of my favorite parts about what I do today. And I said is seeing different businesses, from marketing to nonprofits to law firms, all of these types of companies. It's really cool to see them grow and see them evolve. But that's kind of what drove me originally, was like, let's have some relationships and do good work over a longer period of time versus like, hey, I'm going to sell you something and then like call me if you need anything.
Absolutely. So you just dropped a gem there. I want to make sure people don't miss. You said you want to build relationships and work with clients for the next 20 years. So give us some insight there in terms of how do you hone that relationship to last that long? Because I think too many entrepreneurs, salespeople, they're too short-sighted when they're looking at these things. I'm kind of feeling like, I mean, I've been doing this 10 years now, but I feel like I'm almost just became an entrepreneur because some of the things I'm learning and how some things are clicking now, where before in the early days it was transactional because you're just trying to eat.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, man, I got to get this light bill paid for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I need this mortgage paid for. Let's get this done. I think that shows the maturity of an entrepreneur once you can get past that point. It's like, all right, it's not about the next meal. It's about how am I going to cultivate relationships for the long term. So what are some things that you do to deepen those relationships with clients?
Yeah, and they always change too, right? Like the relationship that you form originally, maybe it's surface level or maybe it's like a small company or whatever it might be. But as your journey as an entrepreneur, grows and evolves, and your client as well, like companies that you work with and people, right? At the end of the day, it all comes back to people. They grow too. So it's not like you're always changing and evolving the relationship. And I just think it goes beyond a lot of times, especially with business, it goes beyond personal relationships because personal relationships are very important, right? Like golfing together, grabbing a lunch together, all that stuff has its place by all means.
Yep.
But if you don't do good work with that, it's like you're missing one side of the puzzle. And like that's kind of the cool thing that I've noticed the last few years of BenX is like when we do our best work, sometimes the best relationships come out of that, the best sales come out of that. It doesn't come out of us just like, hoping that just because I play golf with this person, this happens. It's like, no, like, yeah, let's develop a relationship for sure with people and get to know people. But on top of that, like, let's don't just rely on the relationship and let's also do some great work.
Absolutely.
To like support that journey as well.
Absolutely. I remember hearing a story from Gary Vaynerchuk one time. I have yet to do this, but I do have a client in mind that they're about to upgrade to the next level with us. And once we do that, I'm like, all right, I got to put a little cherry on top of this. So he found out one time a client he was working with was a big Bears fan. And he did this just by scrolling through his social media, found out who his favorite Bears player was. And then he went on eBay, ordered a jersey signed by this player and sent it to the client. Cool. And it was like, man, that deepened the relationship so much. Are there any techniques like that you've tried in terms of like, we've all done probably the pizza party and stuff like that, but like, is there anything beyond, like we talk about golf and things like that, which is a fantastic way of developing a relationship with people. Is there any secret or tidbit, like something you've tried that you're like, man, that worked out better than I thought? Yeah,
it's funny you say that. We haven't done anything to that extreme by any means, but one of our best referral partners, I did, she's a big Syracuse fan. And so I hired a company locally, River City Caricatures. Nice. And I did like a caricature of her as the CEO with the Syracuse cape. It was like, very personalized and just kind of like an office gift. And that I knew she was going to like it, but I was very taken aback by like how much she, I would say, appreciated the gift. Yeah. And just like you said, like it's so personalized sometimes, like what Gary Vee did. And like, I think that's really maybe something we need to do a little bit more of. It's like, we do like the coffee and the happy hours and some stuff, dinners and different things. But having something like, I'm a big Carolina Panthers fan. No one's ever gotten me anything Panthers-wise. But if they did, even if it was like something small, right? Even if it's like
we should, because that stuff's on sale all the time, man. The time. Nobody wants Panthers gear.
You could get a ticket. We could get a field-level seat for $30. Right? There was a crazy game last year against, I think it was the Falcons. It was a team that you could literally get a ticket for $3.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, and that's not too far of a drive,
Bryce Young's turning around, though.
Yeah. So I do like Bryce, man. So I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was at a golf tournament yesterday. And the guy I was with, he was a Carolina fan, too. And he said who's the quarterback for the Houston Texans?
CJ Stroud.
CJ. Yep. He said Carolina could have gone either way.
Oh, their number one pick.
Yeah. But I'm like, it's so hard to predict a quarterback in the NFL. Like, Tom Brady was Mr. Irrelevant. Turned out to be the greatest of all time. Steelers got Big Ben in, like, the 5th round or something like that. Like, you never know what you're going to get with these quarterbacks. So much
is – we could have a whole podcast about that. But so much is about, like, the coaching and the schemes and the fit of the organization. Because you look like Brock Purdy. Yeah. He just signed a 5-year, $265 million contract.
Yeah, you need to get a health insurance plan with him, man.
You need to get more than that. He needs to get some crazy stuff insured. That's $265 million. And he was, 6th round, I think. Fifth or sixth round. And
he was close to a Mr. Actually, was he Mr. Irrelevant that year? I think he was.
He might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's nuts.
It's nuts, man. All right, so let's talk about we talked about the development of relationships, strengthening those relationships. What caused you, because you were working in the health benefits area, what made you wake up one day and said, you know what? I want to be a psycho and start my own business.
Definitely psychotic. There's no, I talked to you about this the other day, but people ask me, like, how do you get the motivation to do something like that? I said, well, if you wake up one day and you don't have a paycheck, you'll find motivation really fast.
1,000%.
Very fast. No, but before that, I was with a good firm, I would say locally, and I just noticed that they were all focused on the relationship aspect, which, well, like we talked about, is important.
Yeah.
But they were kind of doing their clients a disservice by not also doing good consulting and not having a good service and product with that. Mm-hmm. And the average age in my industry is a little high, right? I forget what the statistic is, but it's like 61, right? And I kind of looked, after a couple of years of that firm, I looked at it and I was like, I really feel like I can bring some innovation, right? Some proactiveness instead of reactiveness every year.
Yep.
And some new, fresh ideas into an industry that's been the same for 15 years, right? So that was the vision behind starting it. But to kind of go a little farther, I always knew, like, even when I was in high school, that I wanted to start something. Now, I didn't know what that meant. Like, in high school, you have no skills. I was just hoping to get singles over the shortstop's head, right? Like, you have no skills. And so it's like, what do I start? And even in college and stuff, I always had, like, this feeling that, like, I wanted to start something, but I didn't know what. And so finally, I felt like after a couple of years in the benefit, and then obviously a couple of years at ADP too on the sales side, I really felt like now I have something to bring. So that's kind of why I started it.
Talk to us about, what did the first 6 months look like of you stepping out? Were you Ubering on the side to make some extra income while you're getting the business off?
It's funny you said that. I thought about it. In fact, I was so close to doing DoorDash and Uber because 6 months in, I had like no money. You know? Like, luckily, I'll say any piece of advice, if anyone's watched this and they ever want to start something, or maybe they just started something, have people around you to like set your expectations correctly. So before I started, luckily a few of my buddies were, not big time entrepreneurs by any means, but they were 2, 3, 5 years into a journey. Yeah. And I really got to pick their brain. And so before I started, I knew the first probably 2 years were going to be really difficult. And
so how did you get through that? Because we gloss over that and on this podcast, like I like hearing these stories, but what does that really look like? Because for me, I was ruffling for spare change in the floor of my car to put $2 in the gas tank. It was Little Caesar's Pizza. Like, what did you do to bridge the gap financially? So you passed on DoorDash and Uber. How did you find ways to make money during that time?
So I knew that if I just had to keep my expenses as low as I physically possibly could. I was living off, like, the first few months, something crazy, including rent, food, utilities was like $1,500 a month. Oof. That was what I was living off of.
Did you have roommates? Like, you lived in solo?
I had a few roommates, yeah. So I kind of moved in proactively before I started. Had a few roommates, or a couple roommates, and the housing situation luckily was a low expense, which some people just, obviously maybe you have family or. I was definitely blessed, and in the time that I started it, I could definitely be flexible with that. So I had a couple roommates. Housing expense was really low, and then obviously I have utilities, gas, food. I mean, I tried all in. I don't tell many people this, but I tried all in every month to spend $1,500. So I had like a certain amount saved for 12 months, and I'm like, okay, if I can live for $1,500,
Okay, so let's back up. So you plan this out. Wait, this is why I love you financial guys, accountant types, man. You guys plan. I just run out with my heart and jump in the deep in the pool. So prior to you making the leap, was it, okay, I know I'm going to do this at some point, let me stash away 12 months of living expenses?
My goal was 12. Yep. Whew. And 12, once again, in my situation, is a lot different than other people. Like, other people might have stashed away 60. Right? I had to stash away 20. Right? Like, it's a lot different.
But even that, like, I've read this statistic recently. It's like over 51% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. Oh, yeah. And so I had to lean over to my wife. I'm like, we're not doing as bad as you think we are.
Hey, top 49.
Yeah. I'm the top percentile, baby.
Yeah.
But looking at that,
you
like,
can rely on me.
Yeah, it's not easy to put away. I mean, based on most Americans, it's not easy to put away $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to save.
Yeah.
So that right there takes a certain level of discipline. So I'm assuming during that period, because this is probably you're in your early 20s, mid 20s at this point. That means like your homies are hitting you up, and like, hey man, we're gonna hit the bar tonight, and you're like, I gotta stay home.
100%. And luckily, my buddies weren't too hard on me. They would rib me a little bit here and there, but couldn't really go out to eat much. Couldn't go to the bar. Couldn't golf trips. I couldn't really take golf trips, right? Like besides family vacations.
When mom and dad are taking the tab, I'll go to Orlando.
Yeah, I remember when I first started BenX, the first 12 months, I barely, hardly played any golf, which for me is. And
you're still better than me.
I don't know. We haven't played yet, but it was the first time. It was probably the first time in my life I played that little in golf, because I grew up playing. I played middle school. I played in high school, and so it was probably the first time in years I hadn't played. At least regular, consistently. A few times a month. So gave that up, but it was also short term. And my mindset. I was having this conversation a couple of days ago, because I was thinking why I originally started it. One of my buddies who was an entrepreneur for a few years, my senior, was like, because I was kind of at a weird time. I was like, should I get my MBA? Should I do something else? Should I what should I do? Should I start this thing? He was like, if you did this for a year, you're going to learn more than anywhere you ever go, right? Whether it's Harvard or it doesn't matter.
It's the best education.
By doing it. So that was kind of my final kick, was just freaking do it. So that was when I kind of started planning, doing some stuff, and then ripped the Band-Aid off. But it was a huge learning experience, and still is. And
people don't realize, and I want to stay on this for a second, people don't realize how much that sucks to sacrifice that for a year, where it's like, you see all your friends on social media out having a good time. Your boys are meeting their potential wives, and all this stuff is happening. Everybody's there in Myrtle Beach on the golf trip and having a blast, and you're just at home working on a business plan and trying to get some things together. Dude, it sucks.
It does, yeah.
But when you realize 12 months of your life, man, that ain't jack.
Exactly.
Dude, it's nothing in the grand scheme of things. So most people just have that problem. They can't suck it up for that short period of time to live how they want to for the rest of their lives. You set the foundation with that just by having a little discipline.
Yeah, and there's some peace around that, right? Because it's it's less of a success and failure game. It's more of I'm going to give this all I have. And if it works, let's go. Right? Awesome. And if it doesn't, I can live with that. I gave it, that was my big thing, was if I really give this my all for a couple of years, I will never have any regrets. Right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I was kind of, when I stepped out, I was completely fine with it being a complete failure.
Yeah.
But I knew if a complete failure means that I have peace, I don't regret it. And on top of that, it means I learned however much I learned in 18, 24 months or whatever. I knew that was going to be so expedited, because it has to be. And so if the failure is an expedited learning, right, and a chance to do something that most people don't, I'll take that downside. Yeah. Right.
How many years into it were you able to stop living off of $20,000 and things could elevate a little bit?
Yeah, it was 18 months in. Yeah, almost 2 years before, because the first 12 months was essentially nothing.
Yeah. What was that moment like for you, where you're looking at the numbers, you see the gross revenue that's coming in, and that aha moment of, holy crap, I got something here. What was that like?
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm not gonna lie. It was and it wasn't much. It wasn't it was any big amount by any means. But it was when I first was I can actually make a base wage and pay myself. It was the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Because it was now I'm making whatever, 40 or whatever the base, is. And it's just this kind of came, obviously I'm a believer, so I believe it came from God at the end of the day as well. But it came in the last, 18, 24 months or whatever it is. And it was really cool to see, because it was I went into it with it might not work. Yep. My first time was taking a paycheck and taking some money out. I was okay, here we go.
How do you feel about this is a conversation I have with a lot of young entrepreneurs in terms of quote unquote being your own boss.
Yeah.
And I've always said I let go of one boss to take on hundreds of bosses, which are now my clients. How did you feel about that in terms of the flexibility of schedule? Because for me, I remember looking out of my office door or my office window when I worked in corporate America, and it was like a Tuesday and people are outside throwing a Frisbee and having picnics and playing with their dogs. I'm like, what in the world do these people do that they can be outside on a Tuesday at 2:00 and just having a good old time?
Yeah.
For you, like, and let's get into the building piece.
Yeah.
Like once you started to put together a team and things like that came together, talk to us about leveling up, because it's one thing to be a solopreneur. It's another thing to bring people on a team, and now you're responsible for them having a check. Because I remember the days where it was like, all right, I'm going to have to skip my paycheck this pay period and make sure my people are taken care of. Talk to us about the obstacles you had there building the team.
Yeah, I think it's funny when people say, like, be your own boss, because it's not really true. Because it's like, at the end of the day, I have never worked harder. Even today, right? Like I've never worked harder my entire life at anything.
Entrepreneurs work 80 hours a week, so we don't have to work 40 hours a week for someone else.
Yeah. It's actually kind of stupid, but it's also like really, if you believe in what you're doing, it's really rewarding, and it's like you're kind of at peace with that. Like I know I'm going to work more, but like I understand that's kind of how it is. That's a good question though, because like it's funny because people, my friends, and I'm sure yours do the same thing, when they're like, it must be awesome to be your own boss. And like, well, there's pros and cons to every decision you ever make.
Yeah.
There's definitely pros of like, no, if I'm going to the dentist, like, no, I don't have to let anybody know. Or if I am going to go to the beach for a couple of days with my family and girlfriend, like, obviously, that's fine.
Or if you want to eat lunch at 1:30 instead of 12 o'clock, like, you get to make those decisions.
Exactly. That's fine. But it's like the con is that like, once you start to hire employees, it's like you definitely feel, and it's a motivating thing too, because you definitely feel like you need to essentially level up. Like you need to be a better version of yourself, because when you just start something and it's, for example, just you, or maybe it's you and a partner even, it's like you're only accountable with so much, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But now it's like, it's a little bit of a deeper conversation if it doesn't work. Like you feel like you're letting more people down than yourself. Yeah. Right? And so it is, I would say it's definitely more, I wouldn't say they're bosses by any means, but it's definitely more motivating to make sure like I'm leveling up myself. Oh yeah. Because like I'm trying to read right now a leadership book. Like it's something I've just never really done. But I know that the next phase is definitely going to take a better version of Christian. Right?
Absolutely.
So
I think we're on the same plane with that. Like I'm always reading business books and self-help education books. But right now I'm honed in on the leadership component, because I realize like that's the skill set I need to grow the most in order to take this organization to the next level. Curious, what book are you reading right now on leadership?
It's called it's by Patrick Lencioni. It's not the 5 habits. It's the 5 traits of a successful leader. Oh, yeah. Literally 90 pages in. I should know. But it's 5 qualities or 5 characteristics, or it's going to drive me insane. But it's by Patrick Lencioni, and it's a really good book.
And that's one thing that I'm trying to up it.
5 dysfunctions of a team.
There we go.
That's what I knew it was 5.
Oh, no, I haven't read that one.
I knew it was 5 something.
Yep. Send me the link on that afterwards.
It talks about like, lack of trust, lack of clarity and accountability, like the dysfunctions of a team that isn't performing well. Yeah. And so now more than ever, and we're not a big company by any means. We have me and then 2 full-time employees and an advisory board, and so some of the pieces in place. But it's like your people are everything. Like I need to obviously be better continually, but like if you can be a better leader to the people that you're working together with, that's an exponential return. Because like it's kind of the most satisfying for me, and I'm sure it is for you, like to see someone else do well, right? Or to see someone else like, solve something or do something here or be able to provide in this way, and it's a really cool feeling.
Like one of my employees last year, he was able to buy his first home, and he was working here for 4 years, and I wasn't the one that got him the house or anything like that, but it's just like the fact that I was paying you a certain wage that you were able to go out and afford your first home. It's just an awesome feeling. Yeah. On the education piece, like I'm trying to up the amount that I'm reading per week now. Nice. I can't remember who this guy was on a quick reel that I saw, but I went and watched the full video.
Mosier.
Yeah. Oh, Alex is the man.
That guy's everywhere.
Yeah. But he was saying the top CEOs, they're reading 50 books a year, and if you break that down, basically you're reading a book a week. Yeah. And I'm like, With the combination, do you count audio books?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I think I don't. As long as you're like now, audiobooks when you're working out, I don't know.
Yeah,
if you're like focused on doing something else, I don't know how much. Like me, for example,
that you're
I don't
actually
really
retaining.
retain much. But if I'm driving or if I'm absolutely,
yeah. So I'm trying to get to that point where I'm reading, listening to 50. I haven't gotten to that point. I know a lot of guys will read audiobooks on like 2X or something like that.
Yeah, it's like
I can't. I'm listening to Chipmunks, man. I can't. I just got to listen to it at normal speed. But for me, I think that moment what woke me up and said you need to delve a lot more into leadership. And in the early days, I was reading a lot of John Maxwell and things like that, so I picked up those leadership skills. But I think at some point, and you let me know if you've experienced this yet, I think all entrepreneurs, we get some imposter syndrome at some point where you're like, am I that guy? Like, should I be the one leading this organization? Like, do I have it in me to lead these people? Like, why are they following me? Am I that? I'm nothing special, all these different things. Have you experienced that yet in terms of imposter syndrome, thinking that you're not enough?
Yeah, good question. Maybe moments or like bits and pieces I have. For sure.
Yeah, it's not something that lasts for 6 months.
Yeah, but bits and pieces, I think I have. I also think, to be honest, that like I know people who are CEOs of 200 employee companies and they don't have it together.
Yeah.
So when I see that, it definitely makes me feel a little, because at the end of the day, no one really has it together. Everyone's just kind of learning on the fly.
Yeah.
And so like once I've seen mentors of mine, like, or people I look up to that are just like, hey, like, we're at X and I don't know what I'm doing. That definitely is relieving, because when you start a business and you start hiring, start having some clients and hiring employees and all that fun stuff, it becomes, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But.
Well, I literally just made a post before we jumped on here, talking about how I'm just starting to realize that fatherhood is so much like entrepreneurship, because the age I'm at now, like, my parents were just having me.
Sure.
And looking now and realizing, at 40 years old, dude, I don't know what I'm doing.
No,
I'm figuring this fatherhood thing out as we go and just hoping that I'm doing the best thing and I'm, talking to the right men and surrounding myself around other guys that I think are good fathers and setting the example.
That's a great point.
Yeah, we're all trying to figure this out along the way.
The biggest thing, too, kind of going back to finish the train of thought, was just like, caring about people and just always trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I think there's people who just like try to potentially cut corners, and I've always been a believer that cutting corners might not hurt you now, but at some point it's going to absolutely come back. But like at the end of the day, I feel like if you're caring for people and you're like, kind of goes back to like, doing everything you can, then I think everything else kind of takes care of itself to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
That's one thing when things, and you're probably at the stage where things get bigger and you can't control anymore, like everything anymore. Like you're between delegation and people and clients, and like you can't be involved in every single aspect of the business.
Yes.
But just like being okay with that.
Yeah. One time I heard somebody, and I'm going to butcher this metaphor, but he said leadership is kind of like, getting out of a chair. Like if we both get out of the chair right now, we're going to push down the arms and see what happens. We move up. And it's when you delegate and you start giving responsibilities, you start to rise up. So it's like if I make a bunch of, I won't say millionaires, we'll say 100,000aires. If I can employ some people and pay them $250,000 a year, well, what do you think your income's going to be if you can get these people to that point? Yeah. And most of the people that come in an organization, I don't think, and I may be mistaken, I don't think anybody in my organization is thinking that one day here they're going to be making $300,000 a year. I definitely see myself making an income like that at some point. But if I can get them what they want, get them to their goals, meet their needs, you naturally just rise up from there.
Exactly.
So I think that's a big thing to look at when it comes to leadership. You mentioned that you played baseball when you were in school. I don't think I've asked anybody this on the podcast. Do you see any direct correlation to the things that you learned in sports to entrepreneurship?
It's funny, on time. I get so frustrated. I was late today. So I get so pissed off at myself. But I hate when someone says they're going to do something or be somewhere and they don't, because like I've just been trained for forever. Like, hey, if you commit to this, like you're going to go and you're going to do this and you're going to be on time.
And early is on time is late.
Yeah. As I was late today. But
no, you're good.
We'll blame Richmond's huge traffic scene.
Yeah. No, I had an employee. It took her 45 minutes to get to work today because of some
100%.
traffic patterns that are going on here.
But I would say like, one of the things is definitely the consistency in it, like day in, day out, realizing that like it's never sexy.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe once in a while it's sexy. Maybe you win a big client every once in a while, or, you hire a key employee, and maybe every once in a while for sure. But it is just a day by day consistency, right? Like consistency compounds. That's probably the biggest thing I learned was like show up every day, like consistency compounds, do what you say you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's really helped in certain aspects for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 5. Because like the consistency of doing something for 5 straight years is like really powerful. Like think if you worked out 5 times a week for 5 years.
Yep.
I don't care who you are, what genetics you have. You're going to be in good shape.
You're
going to look good, right? Like,
you're getting in shape.
You might not look like, fun, you might not be 4% body fat, but like you're going to look really good.
You're going to be in the top 10 percentile of adult Americans.
Absolutely.
Because most people are. I saw something the other day that said the new flex in America is a healthy body.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe like this pattern we're going on. And that's a perfect segue because I was going to ask you, how does health and fitness equate into your everyday life as an entrepreneur? Because I fully believe that entrepreneur is a full contact sport. Mm-hmm. Like we have to be sharp mentally, we have to be sharp spiritually, we have to be sharp physically. What's your regimen? Because you don't look like a slouch. You don't have a gut hanging over your pants. Like
no, it's been on and off. It's been a part of my life where it hasn't been as consistent as the others. Mm-hmm. Work has been very consistent the last 3 years, but fitness is not. Like I ran a half marathon 2.5 years ago, so that was obviously the consistent. But like since then, it's been like 2 or 3 times a week just doing stuff, whether it's lifting weights, whether that's running, just being active. But I really need to. I was actually thinking about that the last few days. Having some type of goal or having some type of like, because the thing I've struggled with recently is like, I'm just doing it to do it. Yeah. And it's like maybe having some type of either accountability or goal with it. Yeah.
Like if you got a Tough Mudder on the calendar and you got something you're working after.
You need to, prepare for it a little bit.
Yep.
And so looking into what that might be. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much 2-3 times a week I'm doing something, whether it's weights or running or.
I mean, that's still major. I mean, most people are sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're out 2-3 times a week doing something active.
Some people are crazy, though. Some people, 5 a.m. alarm. I'm not. Are you that guy?
I'm that guy,
impressed
dude.
by people like that.
So I will say this. Once you get married and have the kids, that is literally the only time of the day I can get it in. Because by the time I get back from the gym, my wife and kids are just waking up. So it's like I never even left the house. Plus, I've just always had this innate thing in the back of my head, like, that was one lesson that my dad taught me without even saying anything. So my dad was a pastor since the day I was born.
Oh, cool.
And I will never forget. And still to this day, I try to think back, like if I ever beat my dad waking up in the morning. There was not a time I can remember that I didn't get up in the morning first thing. And I'd maybe get up at 6 and be like, oh, I got him today. Walk into the bathroom. He's sitting in his study reading books or doing something.
Yeah.
So it was a lesson that was always like ingrained in me. I just think something happens when you're up before, and I don't care what it is you're doing, whether you wake up to pray, meditate, read a book, start looking through your calendar for the day. If you're up at that time while most Americans are still in bed, I just know that by the time, because I'm the type, when I'm warming up on the treadmill, I'll just do walk for my warm up, and then I'll hit the weights. I like to be on the treadmill for 30 minutes because that gives me an opportunity to listen to a good podcast or a good audiobook. So by 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m., I've already read a chapter in the book while most people are still sleeping.
Yeah.
Then I'm getting into the physical component of it, and it's just like I just feel sharp when I get to the office. Some people may just be rolling in. Like I keep a younger staff, and I've had some employees where it literally looks like they just rolled out of bed and like got here as quick as they could.
Yeah.
Man, I've gotten
boathouse.
Yeah. I've gotten the news, like I've read a chapter in a book, like I've checked on the stocks, see what things were looking like from the previous day. Like I just feel like there's so much that you can get ahead of when you get up at that time.
Absolutely.
So I'd encourage you, and I'll set a goal with you, man. Let's figure out some competition that's coming up, because I feel like I can get kind of stale with my workouts, and it's just like you're just doing it to doing it. My motivation has been, when I see that guy in the gym that's like 65 years old and he's just straight ripped, I'm like, dog. I'm like, because I'm doing the math. By the time my kids are like leaving high school and things like that, like I don't want to look like I'm my age.
Right.
Like I want to be able to keep up with them. I want to be the dad that can still have a good time, have fun. Like we can go out and do some stuff. So let's find some competition that's coming up. We'll get Javon in the mix of that too, because he keeps me pretty motivated when it comes to stuff like that.
What would you say? So you're an early morning weight lift. So you weight lift in the mornings?
Yeah, gotta do the weights. Like the weight training to me is the best. Just because the older you get, like your bone density and you start to lose muscle mass and all that kind of stuff. I was a distance runner growing up, so like that is one goal for me. Like I'm trying to work my way back to 10Ks, half marathons. Never done a full marathon.
Yeah,
I'm
that's psychotic.
I'm still debating. Like that was just one of those things I always said I would do, but I'm debating now at my age, like what am I going to feel accomplished after I do this? Like I think half marathon's like all I need at this point.
Well, marathon it really becomes a part-time job. You want to talk about like getting, like I ran 2 half marathons, and like, you train a decent amount for those, but nothing like a full.
Oh yeah, no, it's full.
Yeah,
it's
just try to run 21 miles.
Yeah, just a casual day.
Let's just do that.
There's one guy, I'm listening to his book. I'll send you the link on this one. This guy's a maniac. So he maintains a full-time job.
Yep.
He's been working for this like construction company or something for like the last 20, 30 years. This guy gets up and runs a half marathon literally every single day. He's like one of the top, what do you call it?
Archer?
An archer. He's like in the top 3 in the entire country right now. And he has a wife and kids. I do not know how this guy does it. Like I'm listening to his book.
Every day?
Every day, dude. Every day.
I've done it a couple times, and I'm like,
no, it's insane. So
every day.
I think he's getting up at like 3 a.m., going to work out. Then he gets the bow stuff in, like, but he still has time for the wife and kids, working a full-time job still. Like he's flying across the country doing all these things. Like it's insane, dude.
World?
Yeah. Just when you see people do stuff like that, like those are the things that kind of motivate me. I don't want to do that. But it just lets you know,
like, rings from the bow and arrow.
But it just shows you like what we're all capable of. Like I think we all underestimate so much of like our capacity and what we're really capable of doing. Whenever you feel like you're kind of at your max, like, as both of us as believers, God's never going to put anything more on you than you can handle. Mm-hmm. So like when that stuff come your way, man, like you just take it by storm. One thing I want to touch on with you, like being an entrepreneur and being single. Mm-hmm. What's the dating world like now as an entrepreneur?
Girlfriend. Yeah.
Girlfriend.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been together?
3 years.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. You've been off the market a little bit. Oh, yeah. We talked about this. So you're coming up on the time. We're getting there. Well, what's it like, not being married, having a girlfriend, and like being able to balance that time? Because like when I first met my wife, the conversation was like, hey, I'm going to be here and I'm going to give you as much attention as I can, but the number one thing in my life right now is my business, and I'm not going to put that to the side for a relationship. And so we had a clear understanding from the start. What's that been like for you guys?
It's been great. I mean, she's been really supportive, like through the last couple of years. When I started it, we just started dating pretty much, and she's been really supportive about that. And we still managed to spend, we still managed to spend a good amount of time together, but she works a good amount as well. Mm-hmm. And she's like, she does a great job and I work a decent amount. So like, there are times where I wish, certainly we could spend more time together here and there. But I also think the nice thing about being an entrepreneur is you can really pick and choose your spots. Like, there are days that are 12-hour days, and there are days that are really tough for sure. But, you work really hard Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday comes around, you have no meetings after 3. It's like, well, I can take, I can do a little early this day. So that is one of the nice things, of course, about entrepreneurs. You're going to give more than you've ever given, but you can definitely structure in a way where it makes sense. We might do date night on a Wednesday or, something like that for sure.
Nice.
So it's been, but she's been great through it all because the supportive, because really it's more on the emotional side. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to learn how to balance now and learn from people, maybe, like you and people who've been doing it for a little longer than I have, as far as like how to still have things in the tank when you're done. Yeah. Like done work. So like it's so tough when you are working, giving, because as an entrepreneur, a lot of times you have to give it your all.
Yeah.
And so working, giving it your all, and then still, having something in the tank left for date night or in the tank for different things is a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. I will tell you this. I don't know, and I may not get these numbers exactly right. I think throughout a full day, I think women have 30,000 words and men have like 10,000 words a day. So by the time we typically leave work, I've used up most of my words for the day. So my wife will be talking and saying, and like,
especially
I
all
think
these podcasts.
Yeah.
We're doing 40 of them.
Yeah, I'm going crazy. I got no words when I get home today. I can promise you that. But a lot of time women think like we're ignoring them or we don't care or something like that. And it's just like mentally, I've used it all. I've given all I can. And my wife understands that. There are certain days where it's like, and she'll hit me up sometimes. She's like, you know what? I'm going to take the kids to do this. You can work late today. Like, I don't even have to say anything. She'll just be like, yeah, I'm going to take the kids with me to the gym tonight. Like, you can work a little bit later today.
Well, that's why I also think having a long-term mindset is so important, because also it takes a lot to get something started and off the ground. But also, if you're looking at it in a 10 to 15 year window, or like I'm Lord willing, I'm looking at it in a long horizon. It's like you also want to be the best version of yourself in 10 years.
Yes.
You don't want to like, hey, I'm just going to kill myself for 3 years, and then guess what? I'm going to hate what I created. And so that's also a balance of that, where it's like, give it your all, and there are going to be days where like you're spent. Like there are some days where I get home or like, after work and I just like don't talk, just because it's been maybe emotionally or stressful or, so many meetings or whatever it might be. But,
and our brains are constantly working. You're still processing stuff that happened at 10 a.m.
Exactly.
It's still working through your head.
Yeah, especially if it's a problem with a client or employee or whatever it might be.
Yep.
But just having that piece, and like that doesn't need to be every day.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to kill yourself every day to now you have to work hard by all means, and you have to be completely focused. But you don't have to work, you don't have to spend yourself completely all day, because really if you're looking at it in a 10 to 15 year window, you want the Sam and the Christian in 10 years to be even stronger, right?
Absolutely.
Business savvy wise, and even more invigorated by like what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Versus when you first start. And that's, obviously more reputation, more clients. That's when you want to, ring it in.
Yep.
For sure.
Well said. Well said. Before we wrap up, I definitely want to touch on like the health benefits thing. So I think you and who connected us?
Kyle.
Yes.
Kyle.
Appreciate you, Kyle. I know he's a fan of the podcast.
If he doesn't listen to this, we're going to have to read him a little bit.
He connected us because, now my organization's at a point where I'm going after the best of the best. Like I'm trying to attract the best talent I possibly can here. And in order to do that and keep great people, you got to offer benefits. So give us kind of a brief overview in terms of like, because the thing that scared me as a business owner, and honestly, I think now I'm just getting like the right team together. So it makes the most sense now. But I was always told since I became an entrepreneur, oh, dude, it's so expensive to give benefits to your employee. Like, you're going to be at a certain level to do that. Nobody would ever give me a number. It was just like, this is really expensive. Yeah. And then after talking to you, it ain't that bad, dog. No. Like, it's not that bad. So kind of talk about like some of the options that are out there for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's more than most entrepreneurs think about. Like when you're designing a benefit program, everyone thinks health insurance. Everyone. And don't get me wrong, health insurance is a very highly requested benefits. But the biggest thing with benefits is like, because like I said, we're trying to look at it in a lens of like an entrepreneur and business owner. It's like, if I spend money on a benefit program, what's the ROI? Like who are we actually impacting? And is it helping us recruit and retain talent?
Yep.
So like your benefit package is going to look vastly different than nonprofits, which is going to look vastly different than a tech company, which is going to be vastly different than a blue collar. So it's like, it's all different. So like I say that because you want to use your benefit program as a tool, right? You want to help take care of employees, of course, at the heart of everything, but you want to use it as a tool for recruiting and retaining talents. So if your benefit program is not helping you do those things, you're throwing spaghetti at a wall and just hoping it sticks, right? You need to make sure like your current team, and a great way to do that is pretty basic. Just talk to them, survey them, talk to them, have someone else have an HR person talk to them, whatever, just have someone talk to them and be like, what do you value? Like what's important to you? Then you get the data, and then you realize, hey, a couple of our employees want health insurance, a couple want disability, a couple want this and that. And then from there, you can really design a plan based on that. But it's you need to look in the lens, and you're doing it. It's like, is this going to help me recruit? Is this going to help me retain? And obviously help with employee well-being.
Yep. Yep. Super important. And they're a combination of a bunch of different things. Like, you know, here when I was building this company, it was always about the type of environment, because I remember a lot of jobs I had that I didn't like, and it was like, what didn't I like about those jobs? So what don't I want to bring here? And it's having little things like arcade machines. It's like, you know, making sure, like, I only had, actually, did I have any job do this before? No, I don't think I did. Keeping a fridge just stocked with refreshments and snacks and things like that, where it's like, my employees don't have to worry about bringing, you know, a 12-pack of water bottles to work every day. They know little things like that are going to be provided.
Coffee or whatever. Yeah.
So it's not stuff that necessarily needs to cost thousands of dollars a month to attract good talent. Like, sometimes it's just those small things that people can offer, and obviously that's a big piece of it. What's the cutoff year for? Because, you know, you and I have talked. I have a pretty young staff. What's the cutoff year for when? I was about to say kids, but adults roll off their parents' insurance plans?
Great question. 26.
Okay.
Now, it can be before that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
obviously, there's some people who, you know, your parents say, hey, you're 21, get out of it. Like, get off the house plan. But it's the official age is 26, and that's the month that you turn 26. So, you know, let's just say my birthday's June 6th, right? So let's just say someone
I didn't realize we were that far apart. Mine's June 1st.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go. June birthdays, man. There's something to be said about June birthdays.
Oh, yeah. So we're golfing that weekend.
Yeah,
then.
I love it. Love it. But yeah, 26. So if you turn, you know, 26 June 1st, then by July 1st, you have to be essentially off your parents' plan.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's a good evaluation. Most people, you know, don't know as far as like the cost of like their spousal coverage and all this stuff, depending if they have families. And it's kind of like, essentially health insurance is also a math game, right? It's a math game for how much the employer contributes. It's a math game for like what the plan design is, how much the employee or the member might pay out of their own pocket, right? So a lot of times it's helpful to take some emotion out of it because benefits can be a very emotional conversation, which I was actually unprepared for 5 years ago. Yeah. Because it really is kind of an emotional conversation for people, which I understand. But be careful.
It's like talking to a lawyer about a will.
Yeah, but be careful not to confuse health care with health insurance.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. So like health insurance helps cover, right, events, but health care is like the actual care that you receive from doctors, hospitals, facilities. So just make it more of a math game than an emotional game. And
are you client-wise, what areas can you serve? Just the state of Virginia, nationally? Like what's your client base?
Yeah, good question. So we are in actually a couple different states now. So Virginia, most of our clients are in Virginia, which makes sense from a referral standpoint. But we're also in D.C., Maryland, Connecticut, and Delaware.
Nice. Yeah. Good
we
stuff, man.
We just a soccer organization in Delaware, which has been fun.
Good stuff. So if people want to get a hold of you, which let me do this plug for Christian. Yeah. It can be daunting trying to find someone to talk to about health benefits for your organization. The education you've given me as we've kind of discussed things, I've never felt pressed. Like it wasn't like you're calling some 1-800 line and it's just like somebody just trying to put you in something. Like you and your team take the time to figure out what our needs are, what makes sense for us. So even if you just want the numbers, I would highly encourage you guys to talk to Christian, just so you may not be at that spot now in your business where you can offer these things, but you want to kind of get a forecast for what's down the road, knowing like, okay, by the end of this year, I'm probably going to need to offer this. Let me go ahead and get my head around this, because I like to operate from the perspective of, okay, if operationally it's going to cost me this much more, well, then I'll just find another client to sign that's ultimately going to pick up this tab for me. So,
Absolutely.
If this is not just using as an example, let's say, benefits for health or whatever it is I'm going to do is going to cost me another $2,000 a month in my overhead. I'm going to go out and find a client that can pay me $2,000 a month and we're taken care of there. Yeah. So if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to learn more, they want to get a consult with you, how can they reach out?
Yeah, good question. I would say LinkedIn and website are the two biggest platforms. Website's just www.benxconsulting.com. We put a lot of effort in the website, a lot of testimonials and process and systems on the website. And obviously LinkedIn. So I post a lot of videos on LinkedIn and LinkedIn post. And so just Christian Mosier.
Good stuff.
LinkedIn. Thanks for the plug, though.
Absolutely, man.
I always appreciate it. I'll pay you afterwards.
Appreciate you being here, man. This was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.